that?
Great. We're good. Thank you. The club mission statement, if you're not familiar with it, is to provide a supportive and positive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. This is the core of the Toastmasters program. When our founder, Ralph Smedley, formed the very first Toastmasters Club in the year 1905, his goal was to help young men who were living at the YMCA where he worked to prepare themselves to better enter the job market. There were a lot of out of work people at that time, and he really wanted to help them become better speakers so that they could interview well and achieve success in the job market. Little did he know that his idea would catch fire and grow into a worldwide organization. Every meeting role supports the club mission, and each meeting role supports it in a different and unique way. So we're going to start by first looking at the role of the Toastmaster. I haven't put a lot of words in these slides because I really want us to talk about it in the chat. Some meeting roles are best performed by more experienced Toastmasters, and the role of the Toastmaster of the day is one of those. The Toastmaster of the day sets the tone for the meeting. They want to strive to foster an upbeat and energetic atmosphere. The Toastmaster of the day has responsibilities both before and during the meeting. Use the chat to name some of the responsibilities of the Toastmaster of the day, please. What are some of the responsibilities of the Toastmaster of the day? To introduce the president, that could be one of the responsibilities. The MC, keep the meeting on track, manage the agenda, absolutely. The Toastmaster is responsible for making sure that we stay on track with the timing. To update the agenda, so if the agenda was prepared and it now needs to be, there's been some changes, this is the time for the Toastmaster to let everyone know about the changes. Ensure everyone, all the helpers are there. Great, thank you for those contributions. There's if your club has a theme for each meeting, it's the Toastmaster's responsibility to set that theme. They may request written introductions for the speakers who are giving prepared speeches. So if in your club, the Toastmaster introduces each of the speakers who's giving a prepared speech, a little personal introduction for each speaker is a really nice touch. They can also, for the benefit of visitors, review the agenda. So visitors know that the Toastmasters meeting has 3 distinct parts and what each of those sections is about and what it's for. Also for the meeting theme, the Toastmaster gives some tidbits of information about the meeting theme. These are called Toastmaster interludes. And they don't take a lot of time, but they help to promote that atmosphere of enjoyment and fun, and also giving some information to members and visitors and guests who will appreciate knowing a little bit about the meeting theme. How about, so the Toastmaster prepares ahead of time, and then at the meeting, they also have responsibilities. What are some of the Toastmasters' responsibilities at the meeting? Please use the chat. So I'm sure you've been a Toastmaster, or you probably have at some time. What are your responsibilities at the meeting? To talk about the meeting theme, absolutely, introduce it. When should the Toastmaster arrive at the meeting? Should they come breezing in like 1 minute before the meeting starts? Probably not, right? Toastmaster should arrive early, review the agenda. And in a lot of clubs, when you're meeting in person, the Toastmaster brings printed agendas to make sure everyone at the meeting has a copy. 30 minutes early, that's great. If you can arrive 30 minutes early or at least 15 minutes early. When we're going from Zoom to the hybrid meeting, there are some technical aspects for hybrid meetings. And if the Toastmaster is responsible for the tech, they really need to be there about 30 minutes early to make sure all of the sound and the video and everything is functioning properly. They also need to run the meeting efficiently, right? Make sure that nobody is going so over their time that it doesn't look like you're going to be able to end the meeting on time. So the Toastmaster role is a very important role. It's a critical role. I don't know how a Toastmasters meeting could function if there isn't a Toastmaster there to run it. Okay, so we can now move on to the next meeting role I'd like to discuss, which is Table Topics Master. This is a fun role. Table Topics is an opportunity for anyone who doesn't already have a speaking role in the meeting to get an opportunity to speak. Table Topics is typically also available for visitors and guests, not just for club members. And with each role, when the person assuming that role stands up to take control of the meeting, it's a good practice for them to explain what that portion of the meeting is about and what their role is. So the Table Topics Master has already developed some questions to ask, to prompt for the short speeches that are given during Table Topics. And those questions should be easy to understand and brief. Nobody wants to listen to a long, drawn out, complicated question and then have to try to answer that question. And what would you say about sensitive or controversial topics? Do you think those are appropriate for the Table Topic session? You can just answer yes or no in the chat. I don't know if you've ever experienced Table Topics questions that are difficult and may cause controversy. What do you think? No, yeah. I agree. They should be topics that are conducive to an upbeat and energetic atmosphere rather than to cause discomfort from anyone. And the questions that the Table Topics Master comes up with can be aligned with the meeting theme, or they can be off topic. And how about the answers to Table Topics questions? Is the speaker confined to just answering the question that the Table Topics Master has prompted? They really aren't. They can, if they don't feel like talking about that topic, then they can go ahead and talk about something else. The current event like COVID vaccines, I'm not sure if that should be a Table Topics question talking about that, because people don't want to and don't have to share any of their sensitive personal information with anyone else. So Table Topics it should be fun. right? Sometimes you learn new information, and sometimes you get to speak and share information. I learn things about people that I find interesting, things that I didn't know when they share during tabletop. Okay, the next one we're going to look at is prepared speeches. The core of the Toastmasters meeting is the prepared speeches, and all members can participate and are encouraged to sign up for and deliver their speeches. We encourage members to give speeches that can be applied to a Pathways project. Sometimes someone may
co-host accidentally close out our breakout rooms. So we're reopening the breakout rooms. Sorry.
Okay, that was interesting. Apparently someone accidentally closed out the breakout rooms. And everyone is back. Good. So we were talking about the prepared speeches, the role of speakers in the Toastmasters meeting. And it's a great opportunity for any member to practice, right? That's what we're here for, to practice and improve our public speaking skills, to overcome our fear of public speaking, which is something that I think most of us share, that we get a little shaky when we're called upon to speak in front of a group of people. And as we know, Toastmasters is a safe and supportive environment for us to practice and improve. Usually the speeches are 5 to 7 minutes long. That's the typical length of the speech in Toastmasters. However, some projects require you to speak for longer, and some are shorter speeches. It just depends on what project you're working on. Now, members who are giving prepared speeches have responsibilities. Let's use the chat again and name some of the responsibilities of speakers in a meeting. I'm sure you've all given speeches. What were some of your responsibilities as a meeting speaker? To be prepared, absolutely. Do your research. How do you get on the schedule? Know your topic. Practice. Work on finishing your speech in the required time. Absolutely. If you need assistance from the SAA, so perhaps you have items that need to be moved to the speaking area. And choose, yes, know your audience, right? Choose a topic that people will be interested in, and a topic that you know something about. Yeah, timing can be a problem, but being prepared, practicing your speech ahead of time will really help you stay on time with your speech. For me, I write my speech out verbatim. I practice my speech. I edit my speech. I make sure that I can finish it in the required time limit. Yes, you need to make sure you can get on the agenda, right? So who do you work with to get on the agenda for a meeting? The VPE, right? Your Vice President Education is the person, yes. that you work with to get yourself scheduled to give speeches? How about your evaluation, your speech evaluation? Who needs it? Who needs to make sure they have a copy of your speech evaluation? Your evaluator, right? You want to make sure that you engage with whoever's going to be evaluating you to give them the correct speech evaluation, and also to let them know if you have specific things. So for instance, if you're trying to reduce your use of filler words, or you're trying to work on body language or vocal variety, you want to talk to your speech evaluator ahead of time, so they know those are the things that you're trying to work on, and they can pay special attention to that. In many clubs, the Toastmaster introduces the speakers. You want to make sure that if you're a speaker, you provide your introduction to the Toastmaster. And this can work to your advantage as well, because you can cut down on your speech time a little bit by making your introduction that the Toastmaster gives give a little bit of information about what you're going to talk about. I've seen this done very effectively. And your introduction doesn't need to be long, but you can kind of give a little bit of an introduction about your speech. That way, your introduction, when you actually start speaking, will be a little bit briefer, because the audience will already have been trying. Can you think of anything else that speakers need to be aware of? Speakers is a really important role, and I encourage you as a Toastmaster to challenge yourself to give speeches, I don't know, maybe once a month, depending on how often your club meets, or every 6 weeks, or, you know, to challenge yourself to get on the agenda and give those speeches at a prescribed time during the year. That will help you improve, and it'll also ensure that your club has speakers for each meeting. That can sometimes be an issue where there's nobody signed up to give a speech, and we don't want that to happen very often. Do you have any strategies if your club has a hard time getting people to sign up and deliver prepared speeches? Does your club have any strategies for improving that or for dealing with that? You could put it in the chat if you have anything that you can share with the rest of us on how to encourage members to sign up and deliver speeches. Think about it. You can put it in the chat at any point while we're in this meeting. Okay, the next role we're going to look at, and if you have any questions as we go along about any of these meeting roles, please put them in the chat, and I will make sure I'm looking in the chat periodically. Okay, the next role is the role of the general evaluator. This is where the Toastmaster gets a little break, because the evaluation portion of the meeting is led by the general evaluator. This is an important role. It's a listening role, it's a critical thinking role, and it's also a speaking role. And again, each person who gets up to the lectern to take control of the meeting, it's a great opportunity to explain what your role is, what's going to be happening during this portion of the meeting. The general evaluator should be prepared to take lots of notes during the meeting, so that when they do get up to take control, they have notes on what happened in the meeting that they observed, what went well, what opportunities are there for improvement, what comments can they make about the speech evaluations that were delivered, And then, of course, they're prepared to introduce their team and make sure that their team gets a chance to share. So what else? What are some of the other things that you can think of that the general evaluator needs to be prepared to do during a meeting? They're going to evaluate the meeting as a whole, right? I would say that the general evaluator needs to ensure before the meeting that all of their functionaries are prepared. So it's a good idea for them to reach out to the timer, the grammarian, the counter, and the speech evaluators to make sure that those folks are ready to fulfill their role during the meeting. How about arrival at the meeting? Should they come breezing in 1 minute before meeting starts? It's another rule that should be at the meeting early, right? You want to, if you're the general evaluator, you want to make sure that your team is there. You want to ensure that your timer has the tools that they need, that your counter has the counter log, that your grammarian is prepared and has the grammarian's log, that your speech evaluators have the proper evaluation for the speeches. So the general evaluator is responsible for making sure that everyone who has a role in the evaluation portion of the meeting is prepared to fill that role. They can reach out ahead of time, especially if they have newer members. So maybe somebody's filling the timer role for the first time. It would be great for the general evaluator to contact that person ahead of time and talk them through the role, make sure they understand what that role is, and help them to be successful in performing it. When the general evaluator gives their general evaluation of the meeting, what things are they evaluating? What are they looking for specifically? What are they trying to do? What's the purpose of giving a general evaluation? Well, think about the mission. The club mission is to provide a supportive atmosphere. The general evaluator isn't there to criticize. The general evaluator is there to uplift, right? That doesn't mean they can't give some pinpointed comments on things that the club could do to improve, but it's similar to speech evaluation. The sandwich method always works. Talk about what went well, give a few pinpointed opportunities for improvement, and then end on a positive note. The general evaluator should have a few little comments for each of the speech evaluators. And also, of course, they're going to call on the timer, the counter, and the grammarian to give their reports. But they want to help improve the meeting. They want to help the next meeting to be even better than the meeting that's occurring now. And in a lot of clubs, the general evaluator has a specific time limit. So you want to make sure if you're the general evaluator, you know how much time you have and that you stay within that time limit, that you don't ramble on for a long period of time. Can you think of anything else with the general evaluator that they might need to know or do? Give feedback for improving, positive, yeah. That's pretty much right on. And this is a role that a newer member could try after they've seen it done a few times and been coached a little bit. So someone who's maybe been to a half a dozen meetings might want to give the GE role a try. It's one of the bigger speaking opportunities in a club meeting, but it's also one that I think a newer member could give a try at. Okay. Speech evaluator. So this is a critical function in the meeting. This is a critical role in the meeting. We're all here to improve, and a big part of improvement is getting that constructive feedback. And again, the speech evaluator, when they take the lectern, they want to set the tone of what they're going to do. A good practice is to call out the person that they're evaluating. They might say, fellow Toastmasters and welcome guests, and especially you, Susan, if that's the name of the person they're evaluating. So they make that person feel special, that they're really focusing their comments on that particular individual. And this again is the listening role and a critical thinking role and a speaking role. A speech evaluation is a mini speech. It's 2 to 3 minutes. It should have an introduction, a body, and a conclusion. And a good practice, as I mentioned previously, is the sandwich method. To start out giving positive feedback, give a few opportunities for improvement, maybe 2 or 3 opportunities for improvement, and then to end again with what they liked most about the speech that they're evaluating. Newer members learn by listening to speech evaluation, and newer members should wait until they've got several speeches under their belt before they give it a shot at giving a speech evaluation. So what are some of the important things that a speech evaluator should keep in mind? Put in the chat, what do you think? What are some of the important things a speech evaluator should be keeping in mind when they're performing this role? Anything other than what I've mentioned? It's kind of like what you talked about with the GE, right? Give feedback on improving, positive feedback. So the speech evaluator, of course, has to make sure they have the correct speech evaluation for the project that they are evaluating. And as I said, when we talked about the speaker and their evaluator really should connect before the meeting and talk about what is the speaker, what are they talking about, what are they looking to improve, what project are they working on. And with speech evaluation, it's only one person's opinion, right? The speech evaluator is sharing what they saw, what they heard, what they liked in the speech. They should use I statements. So it's not a general, we all think, or everyone felt. No, it's I felt, I saw, I liked. I think you could improve by. And when you're giving that feedback, general statements aren't very helpful. Saying something like, you need to improve your body language isn't very helpful, right? It's helpful if you say, when you were talking about that big promotion, it would have been great if you would have used a big gesture and loud body language to show how excited you were about your promotion. So showing them exactly and specifically what they could do to improve is helpful. But saying just some general statement about, your vocal variety needs improvement, that's not such a helpful comment to make. And I would encourage not to give too many opportunities for improvement. A couple, 2 or possibly 3, depending on if you're evaluating a seasoned speaker. Try to find things for them to do better, because a seasoned speaker, they need to know, what. So I evaluated a seasoned speaker, and I found that they used the word "and" a lot. They connected their sentences with the word "and." And I shared that with them in the evaluation. That's helpful information. When you're speaking, it's best to use short, concise sentences rather than connecting your thoughts with a connector word. You want to encourage people to give more speeches. So a nice way to end is say, I look forward to hearing your next speech, Susan. Make it personal and make it encouraging and uplifting. Any other thoughts on the speech evaluator role? It is a really important role in any meeting. Okay, so we will move on to our next role, which is the role of the timer. Another very important role, a big part of public speaking is pacing, learning how to speak and get your point across in a specific time frame. We've all attended events in which some speaker just goes on and on. They've made their point once, they've made their point twice. They maybe never made their point. They maybe just talked. Being able to get your point across in a specific period of time is really important. And the timer role is what helps with that in Toastmasters. I've been to some HOA meetings where I really wished someone had been assigned the role of timer and held up the cards, because some people just, they just talked on, and the audience will get restless. This is a role that newer members can take on. It's a very important role, but it's not a real difficult role. It only requires them to have a timing device and some way to signal. With Zoom, we have the virtual backgrounds, which are really nice. At in-person meetings, you either use a card that you hold up, or some clubs have timing lights that they use. And then, of course, the timing device, which these days is almost always the smartphone. But it can be a timer, an old-fashioned timer that people use. And the timer needs to know what things. What's important for the timer to know? Let's hear you in the chat. What do you think? Often the agenda will give the timing for all of the different parts of the meeting, but the timer needs to verify, because something may have changed. Someone who was going to speak for 5 to 7 minutes may have been replaced by someone who's speaking for 4 to 6 minutes between the time the agenda was printed and the meeting time. So the timer needs to be there a little bit early so they can review the agenda and make sure they have the correct timing for each segment of the meeting. In my club, table topics isn't 1 to 2 minutes. It's 30 seconds to 90 seconds. And our club decided on that because we only meet for 1 hour, and we wanted to allow more people to give table topic speeches and still get done in the appropriate amount of time. So in my club, the timer needs to understand that they're going to be timing table topics a little bit differently. And yes, is the general evaluator, are they timed in your club? The timer needs to know that so that they can perform their role for the GE. The timer needs the timing log, right? So that they can write down the name of the person and what time they completed their speech in. And then, of course, they need to be prepared during the general evaluation portion of the meeting to deliver their report. And some clubs have other roles other than the ones that we always have. Some have a joke master, some have an invocation or an education moment. And if these are timed, the timer needs to know so they can give the proper signal. So an important role, not that difficult, but you really have to make sure that you verify what all the different times are. And then we have the grammarian role, which is the grammarian has two responsibilities in the meeting. In the chat, share what you know about what those two responsibilities are for the grammarian. Word of the day. Yes, the grammarian is responsible for coming up with the word of the day. And if you have a meeting theme, it's good to align your word of the day with that theme. That's one of their responsibilities. What's the other one? The grammarian also listens carefully for the use of the English language. They note use of colorful and creative language, use of things like alliteration, word pictures, metaphors, different tools that people use in their speeches of words or phrases that really ring true. We talk about a triad, which is using 3 different words in a row that all help each other. They also look for incorrect uses of the English language. But I think the more important, the grammarian role is an important role. And it's good because it helps improve our use of the English language. It helps us understand how to use metaphors and alliterations. And it can help us when we give our speeches to go, oh, the grammarian pointed out this particular usage, and I'm going to try and use that in my speech too. In terms of incorrect use of the English language, the grammarian needs to be judicious and careful. If they have club members for whom English is a second language, they may just talk to that person after the meeting to help them a little bit. It's not ever a good idea to call people out for incorrect use of language, but that can be noted on the grammarian's log and then talked about later with whoever it was in the meeting that used language incorrectly. Because our goal isn't to embarrass people. Our goal is to help and encourage, right? Okay, anyone else? And then we have the counter. This is a role that we all may not necessarily love, to hear how many filler words, awkward pauses, or starts and stops we made in our speech, but it is very important. An important goal to improving your public speaking is learning to speak clearly and succinctly and avoid using filler words as much as possible. And those of us who've been in Toastmasters for a while are probably counting filler words when we hear other public speakers in other places and going, that speaker really could use Toastmasters. It's a necessary role. However, the counter shouldn't be over ambitious. I heard about one counter who counted up 80 uses of filler words by one speaker and then reported on it. Do you think that's a really good idea? To embarrass someone by saying they used 80 filler words in their speech? No, you don't want to embarrass people. You do want to help them be aware. And a good practice is after somebody has used 10 filler words, that's enough. You don't have to report on that they used 80. You can say, you used 10 or more filler words in your speech. The counter role can be taken up by newer members. It's not a difficult role to fill, but as in all roles, when a newer member is taking up a role for the first time, give them some coaching. Help set them up for success. There's a script for each of the roles in a meeting that the person performing that role should be provided with that script so they know what they're supposed to do. And if they're called upon to describe their role, they have something to go by until they're comfortable with it and they feel like they're ready to describe their role in their own words. It's a very important listening role. In one club that I was in, that I attended, I wasn't a member. This was a long time ago, and they used a clicker. During the meeting, the counter actually clicked a clicker every time a filler word was used. That practice isn't done anymore, I don't think, anywhere, and I wouldn't recommend it. It's very distracting. Okay, so in a typical Toastmasters meeting, the assigned meeting roles, to recap. Critical role is the role of Toastmaster, the MC, who sets the tone and the theme for the meeting. The table topic master, who comes up with creative questions that are easy to understand and interesting, that people will feel that they can answer. The speakers who give the prepared speeches. I so enjoy listening to prepared speeches. I learned so much, both about the topic and also about the speaker, the person who's delivering the speech. The general evaluator, who helps improve the meeting by pointing out what the club does really well and opportunities for improvement. Speech evaluators, critical feedback, encouraging feedback for the speakers. The timer helping us keep on time so the meeting ends on time. There's nothing worse than a meeting going 10 minutes over and people leaving because they have to get back to work or they have another commitment. The grammarian, who helps us improve our vocabulary and improve our grammar. And of course, the counter, who helps us understand what filler words we use habitually and how to reduce those words. Gives us a goal. Oh, I say so a lot. I'm going to work on reducing my use of that word. Some additional roles. Some clubs have an invocation, a joke master. That's a fun role. We have that in our club sometimes, not every meeting. Vote counter, if you vote for best speaker, table topic speaker, and speech evaluator. A lot of clubs do that, not all. A parliamentarian, who might be helpful with business meetings. And then we have our resources. I highly recommend that you download this wonderful document called A Toastmaster Wears Many Hats. It's on the Toastmasters website. In the search, just type A Toastmaster Wears Many Hats, and it'll bring up this really nice document that you can provide to all of your members, and especially to new members. Meeting Roles and Responsibilities is a successful club series presentation. It's very short and sweet. So if you wanted to do a presentation from the successful club series, this would be a nice one to do. And then club meeting roles, which is another nice document that can be provided. And there's also the script for each of the roles that are in these documents. So I highly recommend that you find these resources on the Toastmasters International website, download them and share them with your club to help members understand the different roles and perform them well. Okay. In the end, coming together is a beginning, keeping together is progress, and working together is success. And this is what we're all about in Toastmasters at our meetings with our members in the district, is working together. And as long as we're working together, we are going to succeed. It's only when we stop communicating or fail to communicate that we hit roadblocks and stumbling points. So with that, I want to thank you all for attending this session and for interacting with me. And I'm going to release you to go back to the general session. Thanks so much, everyone. Take care.
But you know, we have to, if we're going to use the logo, we have to have it on the brand color background. That's why it's not on there.
Yeah, that I think it would have helped with the identification and, you know, and recognizing our event underneath.
Well, I can create a new one when we get, you know, you send me information. So no problem, we get it.